the podcast dedicated to planned and unplanned midlife changes and the ability to trust in the unknown. I'm Carla Loomis. To start off today's episode, Chico girl Rhonda and I chat about our younger selves and the advice we would offer those beautiful young women. Next, in the first of a two-part interview, I speak with Sonya Jacobson, whose husband was diagnosed with ALS in his 40s. Sonya's story of caretaking and shifting realities is a testament to love, acceptance, and growth in the midst of tragedy. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Rhonda. Thank you for agreeing to chat with me today.
Oh, no problem. Excited.
It's your first time, so there's nothing to be afraid of. I think I only have about 12 listeners, so you're all good.
Stop it.
And they're all Chico people. They're all Chico people.
Go Chico. Go Chico. I love it.
The best people went to school in Chico, so.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
So speaking of Chico, we kind of talked about maybe you coming on and talking to me about a conversation that you would love to have with your younger self. And I think that is a fantastic topic for this podcast.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I started thinking, okay, so when I was teaching at a continuation school, one of the other instructors, she did a project with a group of like 10 students, and she made a video about, so these were 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and they had to write a letter to their 14-year-old self. And
wow.
They were very impactful. They actually won like a national contest and got to go to Chicago for this thing. But anyway,
that's so cool.
It was really cool. And I loved the idea. So when you brought it to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that idea, because now that we're much older than 20.
We're wiser. We are wiser.
Thank you. We're much, much wiser. I've been thinking about this question since you brought it to me. So I'm wondering which age of yourself would you be talking to give this advice to?
Well, I think I could give different pieces of advice to different periods of my life.
For
definitely.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I could start back into like my pre-teens and give simple little quips to them for myself, and then grow from there.
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
And I think I would really, like, when I think about the age that I was probably like the least secure, I don't know if that's the right word, but the least confident.
Yes.
I think I would probably go back like freshman year, sophomore year at Chico. So,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 19 or 20. I think 19 or 20 would be my age. So, yeah.
I think mine actually would be probably 15 or 16, because I had a major life adjustment at that age.
Oh, so what was it? What happened?
So I was raised on the East Coast in Maryland, about 30 minutes out of Washington, D.C. And my family was very ingrained in that community.
Okay.
And my dad ended up being relocated out to California. So we moved from Maryland out to California.
Wow.
And which was huge, and just was very insecure.
Yeah.
And back there, everybody was like, I'm dating myself now. California was like a Mountain Dew commercial,
right,
with the, swinging off the swing.
Yes.
And then there were movie stars all around you,
Yes.
I've been here a lot longer and never, really
Right.
seen one since.
Right.
But so yeah, at that time that was just such a hard time coming into my sophomore year in a
Oh.
different high school.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, and
I can't think of too many worse things at that age than
yeah.
having to move, make new friends, leaving all your friends behind. No social media, no cell phone to communicate with them.
Exactly. I mean, if I wanted to call my best friend, I couldn't
Yeah.
because, the calls were $30 to talk to her
Yes.
for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that was not allowed,
Right.
You have to
Right.
write a letter.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Wow.
So that was really, really challenging period of time because just completely different lifestyles. Even school, the school setup. I mean, back east it snows, so
Yeah.
you're in these hallways that are dark, and out
Yeah.
here there's all open campuses,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So
So you're okay, so you're sitting like I don't know, on the beach or somewhere. You're sitting somewhere and there's 15, 16-year-old Rhonda and what are you telling her?
uh, I'm telling her that you're going to get through this and this is going to make you a much stronger person. Um, you will understand how to connect with people in a deeper, different way than just the surface levels of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going and you can do it. You're strong. You're
Yeah.
stronger than you think you are.
Yeah.
So don't be scared. I
Yeah.
think would be my what I would tell myself at that age.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I know.
Hmm.
Don't you just oh my gosh. I
Yes.
I love that and
Hmm.
yeah.
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 Because then, I mean, so I moved out, um, and we moved into one house, and then a year later we moved to another house. So I had to switch high schools again.
Oh
Um,
no.
and so I ended up graduating from um, a high school that was incredibly affluent.
Okay.
That was in the early 80s where a lot of new money was coming into that area. So
Yeah.
I would walk to school and, and everybody else had their Porsches
Oh
and their
my
big four
gosh.
by
Yeah.
trucks.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was not just an immediate, but then once I was getting adjusted, then it was another type of
Oh.
ripping of the band-aid.
Oh my
So
gosh.
um yeah, and I think that's when my sister and I became pretty close. She's a little bit older than me, and I would run and visit her in Chico because she was up in Chico at that
Okay.
time.
Wow.
So
Yeah. So
yeah,
you stayed.
uh-huh.
So having that, like having to start over, brought you closer, you think?
Oh,
Yeah.
most definitely, because she understood the differences between the East Coast and the West Coast, and
Yeah.
yes, I didn't realize how sheltered I was and then coming out here,
Yeah.
and it was just everything I was exposed to. I mean, smoking cigarettes was horrible back there, and
Oh.
then oh, yeah, that's like a drug, smoking
Oh my
cigarettes.
gosh. And we were all
Yeah,
smoking from like 14, I think. People were
yeah,
stealing their parents' cigarettes like
exactly.
I don't know what grade. I mean, my friends started I never really smoked, but yeah, my friends
Uh,
started smoking it or easily at 14, probably.
yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, and that was just that those smokers, they're the druggies,
Oh
is
my
what we were
gosh.
told.
Yeah.
I know. So
Yeah.
ridiculous. And then I come out and, I get notes passed. Hey, we're cutting class. Do you want to go out and smoke a joint with us? I'm like,
Yeah.
what do I say?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's
Um,
crazy.
and I think, like, for me, I think, like I said, I think I would tell myself like, going to Chico in freshman, sophomore year, like,
Yeah.
yes, guys are great. They're
Hmm.
lovely, but your friends are going to be there a lot longer than that cute guy who's dumb as a rock and is not going to treat you well. And, like, don't waste all your time worrying about dating,
Like,
going out, getting together with someone. Like, that is,
yeah.
and
That is so true. So
oh
true. I mean,
gosh.
remember you'd figure out where their classes were and you'd walk down that same path,
Yes.
hoping they'd pass you and give you
Yes.
a head nod.
Yes.
So
Yes. I
ridiculous.
mean, driving
Yes.
by, like, I didn't have a car
Yeah.
for a year and a half, for 2 years almost in Chico, but like, hey, can we drive by this place because so and so might be there? Like, oh my
Exactly.
God, it's so
It's so
stupid.
crazy. Yes. It's
So
so crazy.
stupid. And then I
I
also
know.
think, like, now that I'm like, I did well in school. I did okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a solid B student, but
Uh-huh.
I did not try at all. I put maybe like
Minimal.
60% effort into my classes. And
Yes.
I could have, now I'm like, I could have been a freaking lawyer. I could have been a doctor. I could have been like
Yes.
something,
Yes.
not, I was meant to be a teacher. I don't think
Yes.
I'm not looking back with regret on what I
Yeah.
chose, but I didn't even
Exactly.
fucking try.
No, no,
I
because
didn't even try.
it was all about the social.
Yes.
With I will say, Chico is known for the social, and that's why we're so highly recruited out of Chico, is because we know how to balance
That's
ourselves
true. Yes.
with, getting our education, but also doing a heavy social life
Yeah,
too.
that's true.
So,
And
yeah.
that was what we told ourselves up there. So,
Hey, I'm still telling myself that.
but those, yeah, I definitely, not that, I mean, I really wouldn't go back and actually change anything, I don't think, just because I love where I ended up. But,
Yes.
the
Mhm.
fact that I put way too much effort into male
Yes.
relationships, and hopefully
Mhm.
I do feel so great about the female relationships I have, but
Yes.
all those male ones, they didn't get me very far. Like, I didn't meet my husband in college. I met him after college. So I
Yeah.
could have just
Mhm.
been studying, going out, having fun, but anyway,
Having a good time and not, yeah,
yeah.
and not have such pressure on, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
on everything.
And
Oh my goodness.
the other
Yeah.
thing, like, I think you mentioned this before, but
Uh-huh.
um I did not show off my body half as much as I should have when I was
Oh,
20 years old.
so oh my goodness. Yeah. I just getting ready to go out and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible. I'm
Yeah.
so fat."
Yeah.
And now I look back at those pictures and I'm like, "What was I
I
thinking?" I was
know.
so mean to myself.
I know. I
You know,
know. I
so mean to myself. Mhm.
I told all my
Mhm.
friends had girls, and they're like, "Oh, she's wearing such short shorts," or like, "Oh my gosh, her top," like, but, and I'm like, if I could get away with that shit, I would still be wearing that too. Like, don't, she is not going to have that figure forever. I don't know what you're talking about. Let
It's
her
true.
go.
I know.
She's going to love those pictures when she's 60 and she looks back at
But
those.
as a mother of a
Oh,
daughter, she's gonna be like, "I was fat."
oh, I know. So I think that
Yeah.
part's awful. And
Yes.
I don't, I wish I didn't beat myself up about my looks back then, because damn,
Yeah.
I'd give a lot of money to go back to that.
You were adorable, as you are still to this day adorable.
Well, it is what it is. That's kind of the new motto, but
Yes.
Okay, my name's Sonya, and I am 58, and I live in the Philadelphia suburbs. And you asked me to be on this podcast because almost 8 years ago, my husband passed away from ALS. He was diagnosed in 2014. And just kind of my journey through his illness and his passing, and then kind of rebuilding my life, I guess, is what you wanted to talk about. So,
yeah. Can you talk about like where you grew up and what you were like when you were younger?
sure. Yeah, I grew up actually several places, mainly in the West, mainly Southern California. Um, Grew up going to Laguna Beach, and I had a pretty nice suburban childhood. And then when I was 14, we moved to Boulder, Colorado, which was a huge change, especially back then. It was much more of a hippie town than it is now, but beautiful place. And spent the rest of my time there, graduated from Boulder High School. I have an older brother, 2 years older. We both went to the University of Colorado, and had a wonderful time there. I met my husband there, Phil, when I was just 19. Crazy.
Wow.
And yeah, we dated. We only broke up for probably 6 months during that whole time. He is 2 years older than me.
Uh-huh.
And, I don't know how much we can talk about him later, I guess. But yeah, so I graduated from University of Colorado. Phil, who's the guy I've been talking about that I married, we moved to Boston. He was already living there. I moved there after I graduated and joined him. And we got engaged a couple years later, got married, moved back to Denver. And we're married 5 years and had two daughters after we were married for 5 years. So one in 1996 and one in 1999. Ellie is the oldest, Ava's the youngest. And, everything was going great. And I stayed at home with the girls. And Phil had a pretty big job, got transferred in 2006 to Philadelphia.
Nice.
And that's how come I'm here. Yeah. So then we raised they finished school here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great community, really mainline area, if you've heard of that. And yeah, so that's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Sometimes I ask myself, because both my girls now live in Manhattan. So it's just
Oh.
a short train ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's different though, the West Coast and
It's
the
very
East. And
different.
I definitely feel like I'm much more of a West West Coast person, or just from the West.
Yeah.
And I still kind of find that a bit challenging at times. But you know what? It's come up more with everything that's happened in my life as of late, in terms
Yeah.
of losing my husband and stuff.
Yeah. So what, can I go back just a little bit? What was your career and
Mhm.
what was your husband's career?
Okay, so I worked in human resources.
Okay.
And I kind of just fell into that because my major at CU was pretty general, it was communication.
Uh-huh.
So I had a job at a bank in Boston working in HR, and just continued on that path.
Okay.
When we moved back to Denver, I got a job at St. Joseph Hospital in Denver in HR,
Oh, nice.
and was there for a little over 5 years. And Phil worked upon graduate. He was a business major, accounting, finance,
Okay.
and he got a job with, back then it was one of the big 8 accounting firms. Now I believe it's like 4.
Oh, wow.
But he worked for Coopers and Lybrand, and then right when we had Ellie, he was hired by KPMG and became a partner there, and continued his career, continued to grow, and they wanted him to come out here and run the Mid Atlantic region for
Okay.
their business assurance program, which is basically like consulting. And that's what he did.
Nice. And so that enabled you to stay home and put your career on hold for a little bit, which is hard because I know I did the same thing. I stayed home with my boys when they were young, but I was actually able to teach night school. So my husband would go to work, he'd come home, I'd go to work, and it kept my foot kind of in the door. But I think this is kind of a transition. It can be a transition for people after staying home for a while and then really thinking, okay, we can survive on one income. That was a big realization for me. We can survive on one income. So maybe now I can really pick something that I like to do. You know what I'm saying? Like a kind
That's
of.
what I did.
Yeah.
I actually, I started teaching spinning and yoga once we moved to Philadelphia. But yeah, I'm so grateful I got to do it, but it isn't easy.
Yeah, no.
And, we had to really be careful with budget. I remember I had a budget,
Yeah.
strict budget, even at the grocery store. But for me and for us, it was so worth it. I, would never do it differently.
Yeah.
Again, that's not for everybody,
Right.
but I really took, now for one thing, Phil traveled a ton. Like I remember after we had Ava, my second, that first week, I think after she was born, he was away on a trip, So
Gosh.
it was a lot. Like he traveled a ton. And so, I know it could be done if I wanted to get full-time nanny and stuff, but that just wasn't what we wanted. And I really embraced the whole stay-at-home mom thing. I was, Girl Scout leader and soccer coach for a bit and room mom, all the things. And it was great. I'm so glad I got to do that.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah. I agree. I'm really grateful too, but then when they're gone, it can be difficult, I think. I think for women it can be really difficult because what's your identity shifts a little bit.
Your identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your kids don't
I'm
need
still
you,
struggling
so.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go from your whole purpose is raising them and being there for their needs.
Yeah.
As well as it was very, I guess you might say, traditional kind of thing. My husband too, being there for him even before he got sick. But it was the caregiver role.
Yeah.
And then as my friend Kathy likes to say, we worked ourselves out of a job.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
It's kind of a bit of all of a sudden it's like, what now? What?
Yeah.
So I remember it like it was yesterday. It was right around our anniversary, which is August, and it was 2013. And he and I went to Asheville, North Carolina. We stayed at the Biltmore Estate. Went for a long weekend. We had a great time. And I remember in the hotel room one day while we were there, he was like, Sonya, that's so weird. My left tricep keeps twitching. And I said, oh, well, okay. Well, we all have twitching here and there, right? And he's like, yeah, but this is different. He's like, this isn't stopped. You know how like a lot of times when you get like a twitch in your eye or a muscle, it goes on and off.
Yeah.
He said, this has just been nonstop. And he did have he played football and, growing up and everything. And he had some problems with that his left shoulder. So he said, maybe I have a pinched nerve. And I was like, yeah, well, why don't you, go. He went to see, I don't know what kind of, just his regular doctor probably after that trip. And other than that, he felt fine. And they prescribed PT. So we went to PT maybe 6-8 weeks, something like that, just, doing some exercises. In hindsight, I have a suspicion the physical therapist might have had a clue because after that, when things weren't getting better, they said, I think you should go to a neurologist.
Right.
And we're like, huh.
Yeah.
And you hear with people with ALS, a lot of times it takes a really long time to get a diagnosis. In this case, it didn't really. Like, I believe, that was in the fall, and he had an appointment, I think it was like December to go. And in that time between those two, I'll never forget, I was sitting downstairs watching TV, and it was a really very calm, stable. I mean, that was part of my attraction to him, like just always very, very even keeled, didn't let things really upset him. But he came downstairs and he looked like he saw a ghost, and he said, "Sonya, I just Googled.
Oh no.
There's a good chance I have ALS."
Oh.
And of course,
Right.
I said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous." I mean, I
Right.
feel so bad about some of these things, Carla. But yeah, I remember saying, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. You don't have ALS.
Right.
That's a small percentage, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "I don't know. I don't know. You read it." And I said, "Well, don't read, they always tell you don't read that kind of
Right.
stuff and try and self-diagnose." And
Yeah.
so, fast forward, he goes to the neurologist. And I remember this. Yeah, this was right around Christmas. We had just put up our tree, and he was supposed to go to this big meeting they have annually, and speak um, at KPMG where he worked. And his assistant was the only one that knew that he was worried about all this and was even going to the doctor. And so he was going to go straight to that meeting.
Yeah.
So I told him, because he didn't want me to go to the doctor. We didn't think it was like that he was going to get ALS.
Right. Right.
So he just said, "Okay, I'll call you after the doctor, and then I'm going to go to that meeting." And I said, "Okay, great." And he didn't call. Now that was a typical thing for him. He
Right.
just like it was always kind of Mr. Magoo, didn't call. And I remember being annoyed. And I was actually on the phone with my girlfriend Lotta, and I was watering the Christmas tree. And he clicks over on the other line. I was like, "Oh my gosh, here he's calling now."
Yeah.
And his voice, he's like, "Sonya,
Oh.
they said I have ALS."
Oh.
I mean, it was just like I felt like it was literally like upside down.
Right.
And I said, "No, no, you don't."
Right.
I seriously thought he was teasing me.
Yeah.
Because he was a big jokester. I said, "Stop it, Phil. Stop." And he's like, "I'm not kidding." I said, "Shut up. Just tell me you're lying."
Right.
And he's like, "No." And I said, "Well, come home. Don't go to the meeting." He's like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "I don't even know where I parked my car."
Oh,
like, he was, I mean,
yeah.
that was just, yeah. So that was the beginning of shit show that, lasted for about 4.5 years. Yeah. So even then it wasn't totally confirmed because this guy wasn't a specialist with ALS. So this was at Penn Medicine, and they wanted to refer Phil go to the actual ALS clinic that they have there. Of course, it's the waiting thing. They couldn't get him in until January, and this was early.
Yeah.
It was like end of January or something. So of course there was still a bit of hope that, okay, this is a misdiagnosis
Right.
and it's something else. I
Right.
mean, we were like, anything.
Right.
Please let it be anything else.
Right.
Because as you know, I mean, ALS is pretty much a death sentence. So
Right.
so no, unfortunately, the first neurologist was correct, and he was diagnosed with ALS in January of 2014.
Wow. And how old was he?
He was 48.
Oh.
He had just turned 49, I believe. Yeah, because he turned 49 in December.
Oh my gosh. And so
Yeah.
how old are your daughters at this point?
Let's see. Ellie had just started her senior year in high school, and Ava started her freshman year in high school.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And we weren't going to tell them, Carla. It was the way it all went down was awful. Because back then, the kids didn't have their own computers.
Right.
So
Oh.
Phil had an office upstairs, which was right by the girls' bedrooms. And he had, a big desktop computer.
Yeah.
And I think, it's all such a blur. I don't remember what day, how soon it was after. It was in December, though. It wasn't even like he had gone to the ALS clinic yet.
Okay.
Right. So this was in December, and he must have been Googling something about ALS or something.
Gosh.
Well, I guess he didn't close his browser, whatever. So Ava, unbeknownst to us, while we're downstairs, I'm making dinner or something, she goes in to use his computer.
Mm-hmm.
She must have seen something and the history or whatever. And instead of crazy, but she texted me from her bedroom
Oh, gosh.
and she said, I need you to come up here right now.
Oh.
I was like, okay. So, because we hadn't even decided when we were going to tell the kids, you know.
Yeah.
So I go up to her room and she's bawling.
Oh.
It was horrible. And
Oh.
it makes me want to cry thinking about it.
Oh.
And she said, you better tell me right now. And I said, what? She goes, does dad have ALS?
Ugh.
You better tell me right now. I didn't know what to do, Carla. So
Yeah.
I remember, you know, I just called down. I said, Phil and Ellie, Ellie's
Ugh.
older daughter, I said, can you guys come up here, please? And I just felt like I couldn't lie to them.
Yeah.
So I
Ugh.
said, you guys, there's a good chance dad has ALS. And you know, the younger one is crying, and I remember Ellie, she went into the bathroom and threw up.
Oh.
It was, yeah, it was one, you know, one of the worst moments of my life.
Ugh.
And so that was how they learned. And we told them that there was a small chance it could be wrong. We'd know in
Mm-hmm.
January.
Ugh.
Yeah, I remember. And, you know, honestly, that is probably the worst part because I remember that night after they went to bed and Phil and I were sitting down in the kitchen and I said, I was just sobbing and I said, my whole job has been to protect these girls and
Yeah.
I've failed at it, even though rationally it wasn't like I did something, but I guess that's when I realized anything can happen and you
Yeah.
cannot protect
Right.
anybody from anything,
Yeah.
even your kids.
Yeah. And
Awful feeling as a mom.
right. I know, because you do have that limited time when you can protect them from certain things, but it
Can
might,
you? I don't know. What if at the end
well,
of this is just
I mean, at that
a bit?
point, like they were old enough to sense a shift, right? Probably. I mean, in you might have been able to keep it from them for a short time, but I think that would have been almost impossible. Like teenage girls are very perceptive and they
Oh
are
yeah.
very they notice everything even if they're ignoring you, they're noticing. And so I think probably that would have been extremely difficult to keep from them for very long. That's my assumption,
I think
you
you're
know.
right. I remember one of my friends saying, "Oh, don't tell the girls for a while." But you know, the other thing I'm still working on, but that I really learned is that you gotta people that haven't walked a step in your shoes
Yeah.
really can't really give you advice.
Yeah.
And I've learned to really work on trusting my gut in terms
Yes.
of what would make sense for me and my family. And you know, there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to everybody has to do what's right
Yeah.
for
I
them. And
agree.
we're all just trying to figure it out as we go.
Right. And then looking back, at least at my life, the things that have happened, almost always I can say, oh, that's why that happened in that way, you know, and it may have,
Hmm.
you know, it's still very emotional for you, which I get total 100%. I understand, but you know, there's probably some reason why.
Agree. I think there's a lot of things that I don't want to say there's always a reason why everything happens, but you can look back and learn something from it and also just have faith that things unfold maybe the way they're supposed to,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if you don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times you don't. So yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree.
absolutely.
At this time, like, how were you? So your daughters were in high school. How were they processing all of this?
Mm,
And we can take this out
well,
later if you want. Like, we don't have to
yeah,
keep all
no,
this in.
no, I mean, I got therapists for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I also went to therapy. Phil did not. He didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But you know, and I will say the ALS center at Penn is great. They had all this information for families. One of the things that I'll never forget they said to us when our first appointment was, when you get a diagnosis like this, the whole family gets the disease.
Yes.
It's really not just the one person.
Yes.
So, and that is true. And how each person processes it is different. But, Ellie at that time, the one that was a senior, she had a pretty serious boyfriend. And I think that was good for her. I think he was very supportive.
Yeah.
And, like some of their friends, I remember they're on the field hockey team, and the field hockey team gave us like this card because, everyone heard about it. Gift card to go to a nice restaurant. It was so nice.
Yeah.
So I think they felt support, especially the older one. The younger one, I think her friends were still pretty immature.
Yeah, of
They don't
course.
know what to do. So I
Right.
think it was just kind of no one says anything.
Yeah.
Which is another story. But yeah, so everybody was struggling. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a really difficult time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, my dad died pretty suddenly
Oh
in
gosh.
February of 2014. So it was just kind of a shit show.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I was that supportive. I don't even remember some of it. It was really, like they say, like moving through slow motion. It was like, it's strange. Like there's this hyper, for me anyway, there was this hyper presence in a way. And maybe that's what it's like when you're a bit in shock.
Yeah.
Where every moment felt like in slow motion, but I noticed everything more.
Yeah.
But I don't remember us talking a lot about it with the girls. We told them that, so going to the ALS clinic, they said we'd go every 3 to 4 months. I told them they could come if they wanted. They could ask me any questions they wanted to ask. They ended up not, they didn't want to go, and I understand that.
Yeah.
They didn't really ask a ton of questions either.
Yeah.
But, and I remember my friend Lotta, who was super supportive. Her and her husband are both physicians. And when we got the diagnosis, and she did say, you guys will learn to live between the appointments, which turned out to be true, particularly the first couple of years. Like you kind of move on, you go on with your life.
Yeah.
And then when, the week before the appointment, you start getting the anxiety and this and that. And then the week after, you're dealing with whatever you learn. And
Right.
but we tried to have as normal of an existence as possible. I know some people like to say, okay, well, I'm going to quit my job. If I get a diagnosis like that, I'm going to quit my job and travel the world. And
yeah,
Phil didn't want to do that.
Right.
He's like, I want us to have as normal a life as possible.
Yeah.
And I think we did.
Yeah.
Well,
and for your girls at it's such a important time in life, your high school years and your young adult years. And so I think if you don't have kids, or your kids are older, you do have that option, right? Like, we're going to go do our bucket list now. But when your girls are young, I'm imagining he just wants to be around them, and they just want to be around, it's different. And you also don't want to, I'm getting inside of your husband's head a little bit, but I feel like I would be like, this is going to upend their lives anyway, and let's keep as much normalcy as we can while we can. That would be my thought.
Yeah, and I remember one of our first appointments at the ALS clinic. It's a great guy, Dr. McCloskey. I don't know if he's still there, but yeah, we spoke to him, and one of the considerations we had was, do we move back to Colorado? Like we, maybe more support, or I didn't have family back there, but Phil did. And his suggestion was just that. He said, after a big diagnosis like this, we suggest giving yourself at least a year before you make any big life changes or do anything, really drastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it was like, okay, we got to just keep putting one. And, and also Phil's a very private person. We told our friends, our close friends, but he was very adamant about not wanting to tell work. The only person that knew for a long time was his assistant, Leslie. And yeah, so he continued on the best he could at work, and that ended up where people started noticing things, and we had to let them know. I think that was like a year and a half or 2 years in.
Okay. I was going to ask
Yeah.
what was the progression from the diagnosis to when he, like his career was affected and things like that. So about 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, he lived, well, he passed in June of 2018. So it was just like they said, it's usually 3 to 5 years, and his was close to 5.
Wow.
Unless you get bulbar onset, which is the kind that starts with your in your voice, your vocal cords. That's a much more quickly progressing.
Okay.
And anyway, so yeah, he had it in his left arm first, and so his left hand became weak. And I remember, I tried to stay ahead of it, Carla. I remember taking all of his shirts to the tailor and trying to get Velcro instead of the button. And he didn't want, we'd put the button on the outside. He didn't want to look.
Yeah.
Anyway, and trying to get shoes that he could put on easier, and
Right.
all that. And like I said earlier, he traveled a lot. Well, I remember one of the last times that he traveled was, I think it was San Francisco, and he had a panic attack because he couldn't get into his room because he couldn't slide. Because back then you had to put a card inside. You didn't just touch it.
Yeah.
You had to slide it in and pull it out.
Yeah.
And he couldn't grasp, So, it was, things like that. But it was his arms and hands first, and his legs later. And his legs never got to the point where he couldn't use them at all.
Yeah.
Which is lucky. But I will tell you, probably the worst part, I would say for everybody, including Phil, I know for me for sure, is so, and this isn't really widely known, but ALS, there's 15 to 20% of ALS patients who also get frontal temporal dementia along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Phil became one of those lucky people. And I know there's a lot more talk about frontal temporal dementia now because, what's Demi Moore's husband's name?
Yeah.
Bruce Willis has it,
Yeah.
But anyway, so and it's not the kind of dementia where you don't have a memory. It's like his personality changed, and he didn't think anything was wrong. I mean, he knew he had ALS, but he didn't think anything was wrong with his personality.
Right.
And all this weird stuff that I won't get into, but that was really the worst, and that really started rearing its head. And I knew something was off. I remember talking to his assistant, and I said, "Don't you find it's strange? Like he had such a good memory, way better than me, and I just noticed certain things were off."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, I think it might be the stress of the diagnosis," which I thought, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But when you know.
Yeah.
I know this man since he's 20 years old,
Right.
and something was not right.
Right.
But I didn't want to say that to him, So I remember, and I felt so bad going behind his back.
Yeah.
But I called the ALS clinic. I said, at our next appointment, can you do some, testing? And
Right.
and I think this was 2.5 years in, maybe.
Okay.
And we went, and he was angry. He was so angry because, first of all, he didn't. I mean, it was horrible because it was like pretty basic testing.
Yeah.
And I was watching, and the gal that administered the test, she was probably in her early 20s.
Oh.
So that didn't help.
Right.
I think he felt really
Right.
Yeah, he performed terribly. And when we walked out, he said, "That's bullshit. They should have told me so I could have practiced." Which right there, I thought, okay, this is like, no, this isn't something you practice for.
Right.
So it was like, grouping things that are like and things that are different,
Right.
basics, right?
Right.
So yeah, between that and then another time, I can't remember when he couldn't drive anymore. And I remember that was a pretty devastating. That was before the frontal temporal dementia diagnosis. But they said, you really shouldn't be driving. And I remember we had to go we had to walk around for a while outside before we went home because he just needed to kind of process that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I'm losing track of what your original question was.
Nope.
I'm sorry, but yeah,
So did I. But
so he, yeah, so he slowly lost his ability to, use his hands. And so I did all that, and there's a part of that as a caretaker that obviously is horrible, right? No one really wants to have someone do that for them, or no one wants to do that for their spouse. But there's an intimate part of, I shaved him, I brushed his teeth, I got him dry, and he and I joked around a lot even before he got sick. So, like, we would laugh about certain things, which I think was a way to deal with some of the stress. And then I ended up my friend, again, the one that's a physician, Lotta, urging, I think it's easier as an outsider to see, like, okay, this person might need some help.
yeah.
And I remember her saying, you need to get someone in there.
Yeah.
You can't do all this by yourself. And Phil was a big guy, and I'm not a big person. So I ended up getting someone, like, I think it was like Monday through Friday for like 2 hours in the morning. And I would go, and at the time of his diagnosis, I forgot to mention, this is when I was going through yoga teacher training.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that this all came, and kind of like you said earlier, things, turn out, you realize why it happened. And yoga and meditation have been huge for me throughout his illness and his passing and everything. But anyway, so I would still go do yoga and teach it and on. But that was really helpful for me. And also separating a little bit of, he's still my husband,
Right.
So this woman would, help him eat breakfast and won't give him a shower and that sort of thing.
And give you a break.
And give me a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember times, though. I remember Carla, I would sometimes pull, this is the once he got really bad, especially with the dementia part.
Yeah.
I would pull into the driveway and I didn't want to get out of the car.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's a horrible feeling not to want to go into your own home.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
And at this point, Ellie's in college, Ava's in high school, and that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
It was really hard.
Right.
Ava, it's funny how different they both experienced it or processed it. Ava wanted to be really involved, and I will probably go to my grave questioning whether I did the right thing as a mom, like letting her, she wanted to help them sometimes eat. And help them do things.
Yeah.
And, this is when most people, like when they're in high school, they're off with their friends and going out and getting
Right.
into trouble sometimes and this and that. And I think that was a part of her life she missed out on in a way. But maybe that she needed to do that for herself. I don't know.
As you're saying this, I totally understand what you're saying. I'm crying too. But I get what you're saying, but I also think that you gave her a gift that by letting her do that. And I can't tell you why, but it feels like I'm envisioning this. I don't know your daughter, but I don't know. I think that what you gave her was a gift by doing that. So I hope you don't beat yourself up about that or question it. I don't know why. I just have this feeling because, you were talking about the intimacy that, with your spouse, but she probably got that too, with her dad. So
thank you for pointing that out. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I mean, she got something that maybe her sister didn't get, by being there for him. And hopefully someday she'll hear this and she can tell you if I'm right, but I do, I think. And when you're young, you don't really know, you think that you made her probably feel very necessary in your home, which I think is also super important.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, it was a huge support for me to have her there. But then on the other hand, then I feel bad for Ellie because I feel like, well, we wanted her to go on with college and do what she would have done normal. But then I feel like she missed out on, I mean, she came home during the summer and it was very helpful. And, how you have two kids of the same gender, you have the same thing, and how
Yes.
different they are.
Oh my gosh.
But they're both so helpful in different ways.
Yeah.
And, Ellie's always a voice of reason and is a very good problem solver. And so, and they each had their own relationships with Phil. So
Right.
it's just interesting how all this contributed to how things went down. What I'll say about Ellie and Ava, these girls, I mean, the resilience that they've demonstrated and continuing on with their life, and they're doing phenomenal. They didn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure they wanted to.
Yeah.
Even though there were some really dark times, I know Phil would be so incredibly proud of them, because they just, went to school, they did well with school, they got jobs, they right out of college, they didn't have to come home, or even, they did what would have been happening even if Phil was around.
Yeah.
So, but I digress here. I don't even remember what the original question was.
That's okay. I think you showed them. You showed them how to do that. When I think back about, the hard times that I had, like in high school or whatever, I'm so grateful for them, because I wouldn't be here without that. And I think that they were going to experience that, losing their dad, going through all that. They were going to experience that one way or the other. And so I think you showed them, how to experience it, but how to also be strong from it.
Well, it's one of the things I was thinking I would tell you is I know you said your son's a musician, and my younger is really into music, and she's got a beautiful voice, and she plays guitar. So she's introduced me a lot of music, and one of the songs, I think it was her, it may have been Ellie actually, that they shared with me, and it's such a beautiful song by Maren Morris called "The Bones." And there's a lyric that says something, when the bones are good, basically, when your foundation is good, you can get through a storm. Is essentially what that song says. And I think it was Phil too. It was him saying, he wrote in a journal as long as he could use his hand, saying, and of course I've read them since, and it was just repeatedly he had so much faith and hope in them. And I think they knew that. And that's really important.
I agree.
So, again, it sucks in so many different ways for them. And at the same time, they've grown and they are just amazing. And then we all say that about our kids. I know we do. And I'd say that even if they didn't go through this, but I think especially because of what they've gone through. And it's brought the three of us, so we're extremely close. And I'm so grateful for that.
I think you've given them, you and your husband, you guys gave them such a great foundation. But the struggle is what makes you strong. You can't be strong without that struggle. And, I think there's a lot of parents that shield their kids from so much that they don't have that resilience when they need it. And
if I could have shielded them, I would have, but there was nothing I could do. And but yes, I think you're right. I know you're right now. And that's, I don't know if we'll get to some of the things in hindsight that I've learned, but that's definitely one of them, is that, through all this pain and grief is, a stronger person. Passed away on June 16th, 2018. It was the night before Father's Day. It's Saturday night. So that was great. Luckily we have, and we bought so again, we live outside of Philadelphia. A lot of people go to the Jersey Shore area.
Thank you for joining me on today's adventure. Shout out to Rhonda for sharing her message of resilience with me and her younger self. And a huge thank you to Sonya Jacobson for sharing her story with me and my listeners. Come back next week for part 2 of Sonya's story of reflection, rebuilding, and rediscovery. Thank you for listening to Gen X TrustFall. If you liked this episode or have a suggestion for a potential guest, please check out our website at genxtrustfall.com. Gen X TrustFall is produced by me and the recording master, Ryan Loomis, at Double Banger Studio. Music by Ryan and Sam. Website and advisory by Amy Clifford.